You're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm MEZ, and I'm here with my co-host Ryan, and you're listening to Season 3 of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast, the podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40K, and I am the noob trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. And as you guys can see, we are in what has become an integral part of this podcast, our virtual studio that you can actually see on both Spotify and on YouTube. And Ryan is laughing because that's word of the day, integral.
Yes.
So, but yeah, let's get into it. So Ryan, what is today's topic?
All right, Mez. You know how this goes. We've done this before,
Yes.
but I like my little intro thing that I wrote, so I'm going to vaguely go through it. For the record, there was a reason for the little intro bit, and I was going to read the same one for almost every episode, so that you would pick out when one of them was different.
Mm.
But you started interrupting me, and now the whole thing's fell apart, so I just don't care anymore. So, one of them's going to be different, you'll never know. But, as with the last, 5-6 episodes of this season, I forget where we are in this now because we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
In this episode, you are just a little baby. A little theoretical, metaphorical baby MEZ. Innocent and blind to the universe around you, unaware of who you are or what you are, or who or what your parents are, or any of the horrors or wonders of the galaxy that you can see out that window.
Yes.
We should do one of these where we just have a monstrous black hole gradually take over the window behind us.
One that's that grows in the background, in the beginning it's small, in the end it's almost gonna swallow us up into the warp. That would be funny.
That's how we end this season, I think.
By dying.
Yeah, it'd be very on brand.
I would.
So, for the sake of a setting, the year is roughly somewhere between 700 and 800 within the 30th millennia. Mm-hmm. And Slaanesh has just been born. The Eldar are still recoiling from being totally effed up by Slaanesh. The warp storms ravaging the galaxy have finally cleared. And on Terra, the Emperor of Mankind has established the Imperium and is now able to set out into the galaxy and begin his crusade to get humanity the destiny he believes it deserves.
Yes.
But none of that is where our story begins. Our story begins with you, MEZ. Little
baby
theoretical baby MEZ. Being yeeted through space and time, and possibly other dimensions, crashing to ground on a random world. And this time, that world is Lycaeus.
Oh, that's pretty.
It's cool, isn't it?
That's pretty.
Yeah. Hell
I
yeah.
like that.
That's a cool one. So, this is not a normal world, right? It's not as bad as a lot of the ones you've landed on so far, but it's also significantly worse than a bunch of them as well. Is it?
Alright.
So, Lycaeus is actually a moon rather than a world in itself.
Okay.
Right? It is the moon of a planet called Kaiavar. And, see, Kaiavar is a much more interesting world that we could talk about. Lycaeus is a barren, desolate rock of a moon that happens to be rich in minerals, right? But Kaiavar is much cooler. It is both a hive world and a Mechanicus Forge world, right? So it houses unthinkable numbers of people and produces a vast array of weapons and equipment and machinery and stuff. It's so much cooler. But no, we're talking about Kaiavar's moon, Lycaeus. This boring little rock.
But it's pretty.
Get what, right? You look at how boring this place is, right? Yeah. There's only two interesting things about it, right? The first one is that it's the only inhabited moon of Kaiavar, of which it has 4. So there's 3 that are so boring and desolate they don't even have anyone on them, right? Mm. But this place is so barren and desolate, it's considered a dead world.
Okay.
Right? It is essentially a penal colony for Kaiavar. Right? Anyone who is a criminal anyone who is a political rival to the people that are in charge of Kaivar, and any worker who who doesn't make his quota gets sent here to work in slave mining camps so that they can mine the resources from this moon and send them back to Kaivar so that they can make stuff.
God damn, what a fate.
Yeah, this place is awful. Not only is it like a hellish nightmare of slavery, it's also boring as hell.
Which is the worst kind of slavery, huh?
Boring slavery, well, no, actually. I think boring slavery might be the best kind of slavery, to be honest.
I mean, it depends. If you're an active person... we shouldn't delve into that.
Let's not try to defend forms of slavery. I think that's maybe where we should draw a curtain.
Let's just continue. We go further.
Luckily, it's fictional slavery, so it's probably okay.
That's fine. Wait.
As long as
We're
it's
just
only...
iterators.
As long as we're only talking about it as a concept and it's not a real thing, I don't think we have to worry.
I think
Anyway.
we are just the iterators of the Imperium, so...
That's it. So, this moon, I should say, is essentially just a slave mining colony, and then there are the overseers, the guards that keep all the slaves in line, right?
Yes.
And the overseers are basically just heavily armored guards that are just keep you doing your work. That's all. And it's not a great place to be because it is basically terrible. And then there is just one gigantic black tower which all the overseers reside within. That's like their base. And from there, they just rule this entire place with an iron fist. It's pretty awful, right? I'm trying to think of a better way to explain how awful it is, and it's basically just, it is awful. I don't think there is a better way. Yeah, it's just
trash.
Yeah, it's just trash, yeah. But, all of that aside, this is where your incubation pod landed. The thing is, though, Lycaeus is a non-atmospheric moon, right? The reason it's so barren and crap is because it has no atmosphere. Or they're probably tied together quite directly. I should ask an astrophysicist. I have one of them in the house. I should ask her if that's how that works. Is it non-atmospheric because it's barren, or is it barren because it's non-atmospheric? Chicken and the egg. I don't know which. I'll find out after. I'll find out after the episode.
And give us an update next week.
I will, yes. I'll find out for you. I should just keep her on hand. I've got I could just have her sitting next to me for these things as like a help desk.
We could put a chair right there, right? Like, it's fine. Just in the middle. That's fine.
Just sitting knitting the whole time until we need to ask her a question.
In front of the emblem, right? Yeah, that would be fine.
I'm sure that'd go well. Because this planet is non-atmospheric, right?
Yep.
You didn't slow down when you were plummeting towards the planet. So usually what happens is you hit something and stop.
Yeah.
That didn't really happen the same way this time, because your pod hit an iceberg and buried clean through it. It hit a glacier and pummeled through it into a cavern underneath it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you were just buried under, in this random cavern under a glacier. So
Wait, how do I get out, though?
Well, we don't actually know how long you were there. It could have been months, it could have been weeks, it could have been hours. We don't know.
Okay.
But eventually, at some point, your incubation pod and you within it were found by a mining team that were following a mineral seam through the glacier, basically. So a bunch of the miner slaves eventually came upon you, and they found you in your little incubation pod, this little baby with skin as pale as snow. Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And the miners were like, this is divine providence. This child was sent to be our savior. It's almost like they were desperate for any kind of hope. Because they found a baby and were like, you're going to save us all. But that's what happened.
Yeah.
So, from that point on, you were raised by the slaves. They took you in, they hid you from the overseers, they raised you to, like, hidden away from them all, a bunch of the slaves all working together to, like, protect you from being found. So the overseers didn't even know you existed. But they raised you, they kept you secret, and they taught you how to defend yourself as you started to grow, right? Because you grow fast. Like 3 weeks in, you were like knocking people out left, right, and center.
Yeah.
They trained you to defend yourself, because you gotta remember, these are minors, and then because most of them will be criminals, and the rest are either workers that, again, didn't meet a quota, or just political rivals. That's 3 major factions in this place. Most of them all hate each other, and the criminals are basically probably just carnage. You know what I mean? They're probably not tied together in any way, shape, or form. So there will be a lot of fighting goes on in this place. So, like, you know, brawling is probably a pretty common thing. Things like that. So they taught you how to fight, but, like, you know, guerrilla combat, like close quarters, hand-to-hand stuff, things like that. How to fight, how to, like, take someone's out with, like, a mining pick or something like that. That kind of stuff. It was, like, rough and ready combat training. They're not soldiers. They don't know how to fight with guns and stuff properly.
No. It's a proper scrap, right?
It's like Mad Max type stuff.
Yeah, and essentially when I'm a super baby, as everybody knows, because that's apparently what I like to be called now.
Yeah. Super baby!
Even at 3 years old, in a scrap fight, I could still take all of them out if I wanted it to.
Exactly. So at the age of 3, Sanguinius tore the claws off of a 7-foot-long scorpion.
Exactly.
So yeah,
exactly.
Humans are no problem for you at 3.
Exactly. That's fine.
Yeah. So they trained you how to defend yourself as best they could, but keep in mind they were also constantly having to hide you from the overseers. So they taught you how to, like, sneak around and things like that. They taught you some stealth skills. They taught you kind of, I guess, the stuff you would need to know for urban warfare. So fighting in the streets and that kind of thing. And they even taught you about demolition, because they're miners. They use demolition charges and things to break through, like, rocks and stuff that are in their way and things like that. So basically, they taught you everything they possibly could that could help you be the savior that they think you are. They thought they were raising you to as best they could to the destiny you were going to fulfill one way or the other, kind of thing. So they were like, we got to do everything or anything we can. So that's what they did. Interestingly, they also taught you a lot about philosophy and politics, because keep in mind that the people that are in here are usually put here for having not really committed a crime. So there's a lot of room for philosophical debate. And being that a lot of them are political rivals to the current leadership, there's a lot of talk about politics as well. So you came out of this place with a lot of understanding about human society and the ways it goes wrong. But, like, from the people at the bottom's viewpoint.
Yeah.
Now, the people raised you like this, not only so that you could survive, but, you know, because they saw you as, you know, their savior. They saw you as some kind of divine providence sent to raise them from perdition. There's another good word for you, by the way. So they named you suitably. In their tongue, it means savior or deliverer, but the people would come to know you as Corvus Corax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Corvus Corax. All right.
Yeah. Now, as you reached maturity, so as you started to become a young man rather than a child, so you're probably like a month in at this point, to be honest. But no, you're probably a few like probably about 10, 11, 12 years in at this stage. You've became a young man. I don't know why you're holding ravens or where you found them, but this is what you were like when you were a young man.
Okay. I mean, no, I'm not going to say anything.
Look, he's basically an emo, right? He's basically just an emo. That's all he is.
Yeah, I'm well built though. Like,
jacked emo
12
kid.
years old? Like, what the hell?
Well, you gotta remember, by the time they're like 12, they're basically their full size.
I know, it's weird, man.
It is really strange. Basically, the only thing that grows after that is hair.
Yeah, and we
Unless
stay
you're
young for
Horus,
a
in
long
which case you
time.
go bald.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, but we don't care.
Yeah, that guy got like 3 years of having hair.
That's very unfortunate. That's why the heresy comes later. Plot twist.
It was all just because he was bald. That's why him and Lorgar became friends, because Lorgar's also bald.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Moving on. So, as you get to this kind of stage, you start to reach maturity. You're a powerful young man, well trained in guerrilla warfare, subterfuge, stealth, but you also found that you had an interesting skill. Even when standing directly in someone's line of sight, so someone is looking right at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you will them not to see you, they will not see you.
Oh, so more stealth.
Yes.
Stealth on steroids.
Yes,
essentially.
but it's as if it's like a warp ability that's like a psyker power that only manifests in like one form.
Okay.
So you gotta remember that all the Primarchs had the ability, or had the same kind of risk of being a psyker, right? Magnus
Yep.
is psyker to the max, right? And then you've got Sanguinius and Kurz, who are both seers. They can see the future, right?
Mhm.
Or they can see their own future, which is obviously in itself a warp ability. It is a psyker power. It's just a very precise one. It's a very specific one. But it seems as if more and more of the Primarchs actually did have some kind of latent psyker power, just, you know, usually quite specific and only worked in like one particular way. But it was as if it was like an innate ability to them individually, as if it came out of necessity for their particular life and skill set.
Yeah.
So his ability seems to take the form of stealth, which is what he required above all else when he was growing up. So that is an ability that you had, which is quite an odd one. For the record, right, you know how the lion is back?
Yes.
Yeah, now that he's back, he seems to have the ability to teleport.
Okay.
Yeah, they've released one book about this, like one novel about this guy, and I finished reading it. And in the book, a bunch of times, he goes into like a meditation state, and then when he opens his eyes, he's in a forest, and then he's able to just leave it basically anywhere. So he like travels from planet to planet accidentally by wandering through a forest. But it's like clearly just warp bullshittery. But like,
bullshittery.
yeah, there's no better
That's the
word
word of
for
the
it.
day. That's the word of today.
The vagaries of the warp, my man.
Yeah.
But it seems as if all the Primarchs are in some way linked to the warp. Even Gilliman, who has, as he's stated many times, he does not have the gifts his brother Magnus had. So Gilliman seems to have no link to the warp at all. But even at one point, the Emperor possesses him. So he's definitely linked to it. He's not a blank or anything, you know? So it seems like, just depending on the situation, when necessity requires, all of them seem to be able to, you know, pull something out of their ass from the warp.
They all have a trick up their sleeve.
It seems like
in,
it.
in the warp.
They wouldn't be magical demigod children if they didn't have the ability to pull magic out of their ass, to be fair. Anyway, we sidetracked there. Moving on.
Yep. Moving on.
So, you used these kind of abilities that you had gained and the skills you had developed to get into areas of the prison on this planet that no one else could get into. And you gradually gathered information and started developing your plans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this took many forms, right? You started hiding weaponry in caches around the prison. You had people go into different areas and cause riots to act as like a form of psychological warfare. You try to stress out the guards to the max. So you'd like have the people on side with you go into an area, pick a fight with like the political freaks that are like all pissy about that. So basically you'd have someone that's like mad communist go in and scream something about that to piss off all the capitalists. Things like that. Basically you just caused riots all over this prison. But in the process, you gathered more people to your cause, but it also just stood to piss off all the guards and stress them out and exhaust them and injure a lot of them in the process. So you were just trying to do anything you could to mess up the guards so that they couldn't stop your plans.
Yeah.
Then you started leading small teams of your like rebel fighters in tactical operations. So you were doing like hit and run strategies, right? Like spec ops shit. So some of them you were going in and stealing ammunition from the guards. Some of them you were like stealing weapons or other supplies. Sometimes you were sabotaging critical systems so that they would fail when the guards tried to use them. They try to raise the alarm. Alarm fails. They try to lock down a bunch of airlocks. Don't work. Things like that. Right? Try to flood an area with poison. It floods their area instead. Things like that. Right?
Yeah.
You were just any kind of like guerrilla tactic to make their life worse when it came down to the fight that you were trying to start. And then the time came for all-out war when you finally were prepared enough. You led your little war bands of rebels in taking key security points and holding them, right? So you were just like, charge into a particular area, take out all the guards, and then stop any of them from getting into the room to try and take it back. Because then, much like Wigilliman taking the shrines in the last episode, they have to come to you. Which means you've got a better chance of taking them out, because you're playing the defensive, and you've got bottlenecks and things on your side. So that's what you started doing, and eventually you started to wear them down. Until... Now, this is quite a grim part, but you had to make sure not a single one of the guards survived. You had to murder each and every one of them. It was unfortunate, but it was, you know, non-optional considering the situation.
Yeah.
So you gradually murdered every member of Lycaeus' defense force.
That's brutal.
Yeah. After this, though, you had freed your people and taken Lycaeus from the tech guilds that ran Kaiavar, but you also knew that the leaders of Kaiavar wouldn't stand for it, and you were ready.
Of course.
Yeah. So they started sending some heavily armored troops to take you down, and you just started leading your guys in like hit and run ambush tactics to take them by surprise, and you just kept killing them off every time they sent more guards. And along the way, you started like disrupting their supply lines and things like. Because you got to remember, they need supplies from Lycaeus, the moon, to be able to build stuff.
Yeah.
So if you disrupt all their supply lines, they can't reinforce themselves.
No.
So you've got Lycaeus now, but Kaiavar is still a problem. Yep. But you don't have an army or anything like that to take them down or take the fight to them. You can basically just, you know, questionably hold your position for as long as you can. Because there's only so long you can keep that going, you know? Now, this is where things change a little bit. Because, right, keep in mind, the tech guilds are far better equipped than you because they are literally a forge world. They can make whatever they want and you guys are slaves, right? You don't have a lot of great stuff. You don't have proper weaponry. But you fight on anyway because that's what you're going to do. You're the savior, you know? And on the day that you kicked off this war and took Lycaeus from Kaiavar's leaders, the obligatory gold-clad stranger appears. On this very day. Thing is, right, there is a main difference between every other Primarch that the Emperor comes to see and you.
Okay.
The Emperor didn't come with any Marines or any Custodes or anything. He came alone. And...
Wait, what?
He came alone. Just the Emperor turned up to talk to you. Only the Emperor.
That's very casual. Did he just like come to the planet like, yo, all right, daddy's home? Like he doesn't care? What's going on?
Well, there is a reason behind it, but you weren't aware of it at the time. It's in the aftermath. So the thing is, right, you and your father were sequestered away for a long time talking for hours, right? But there is no record of what was discussed. But it seems that the Emperor wanted you to learn one last lesson before joining the Imperium properly.
Okay.
So he left you and your people to complete your mission, which was to secure your freedom from Kyavar, with only what you had at hand. And that's why he came alone, because he wasn't reinforcing you. He didn't want to rock up a bunch of Space Marines and have them basically win the fight for you.
No,
you needed to do this on your own. Because
I need to prove myself.
Well, there's that, but you're not a soldier, right? You are like a street urchin, essentially, who's now turned rebel leader. That's not a general for a Space Marine Legion. There are some hard lessons you need to learn first. Especially because, raised the way you were, you're kind of an idealist. You're there like, oh, it's freedom for the people and all this stuff, like fight for the masses and that kind of thing. But you're ignorant to a lot of the other things that come with that, which you need to know to be able to do what the Emperor needs you to do. And you will learn that lesson by finishing this mission off on your own. And the Emperor knows that. So, you are left with no additional advice, information, or help, no weapons, no additional troops, nada. Dude turned up and then chatted with you for a few hours, then fucked off and left you on your own.
Amazing.
Yeah. But you knew what you had to do, right? You knew you had to complete this last mission. You had to make sure Kyavar was never going to start this shit again.
Yes.
So, you, again, left with only what you already had, right? Mm-hmm. Luckily, what you already had was a stockpile of atomic bombardment rounds and mining charges. Because the tech guilds on Kyavar obviously make atomic bombardment rounds in case anyone tries to take out Kyavar, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want to keep them on Kyavar in case they go off or something. That's dangerous, right? It just takes one bad explosion and that's the whole place gone. So they keep them on Lycaeus, thinking the slaves are never gonna, be an issue with this. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out the slaves were an issue and now they have the atomic bombs. So, you loaded up a bunch of supply ships with atomic bombs and mining charges, and then dropped them onto the 5 main cities on Kyavar and nuked the crap out of them.
Holy shit.
So, you nuked the 5 major cities of this planet, killing thousands in the process. But because you did this, the whole city fell into civil war with all the different tech guilds vying for control and resources amongst themselves. And basically because you were like, I've got a ton more of those, I'll just keep nuking you. They were like, fine, fuck it, we've got our own things to worry about. Do what you want. You're free, we don't care anymore. Fuck off. And then, they actually officially agreed to give you your freedom, to give the slaves their freedom, because they were too busy to deal with you now, and they were also pretty fucked up, because they couldn't really build anything with their cities blown up. So what are they going to do about you anyway?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Effort. Yeah, they're in the mud.
Yeah. So that is how you got Lycaeus and its people officially freed from slavery. You nuked 5 cities.
Go.
But
that's all it took. That's easy.
Yeah. Can you guess what the lesson that the Emperor wanted you to learn from this was? Because he knew what you were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, not just because of his foresight, but he's a smart one. He's a smart one, the Emperor.
He's smarty pants, that man.
So he's teaching me a lesson. I mean, I feel like there's multiple lessons.
There's a lot you can take from it, yeah. For example, nukes are a great deterrent.
No, that was not what I was thinking about, right?
But it is a lesson you could take from this. Most humans are afraid of nukes.
Like standing up for something, but no, you're right, Ryan. I think that's the lesson you wanted to teach
It might be the most important one. As long as you've always got a nuke, no one will fight you.
I mean, it is the most impactful one, at least, right?
Well, it was to them.
Oh, yeah, they felt the love, 100%. Oh,
Well, for the sake of covering bases, the lesson he was trying to teach you was along the lines of costing or paying the toll of thousands of lives for millions of lives.
okay.
Right?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
because the thing is, they're going to go fight in the Great Crusade, taking worlds back for the Imperium, right? A lot of them are human colony worlds from before the Age of Darkness, right? For the Age of Strife. And a lot of them will not want to rejoin because they'll have their own leadership, which is too proud to accept the emperors above them. Things like that. And they will end up fighting humans. And he needed you to learn that in those situations, yeah, you're going to have to fight them, but it saves... Once that world is back into the Imperium properly, that world is safe forever. Every following generation of humans on that planet is safe because of the fight you fought against their ancestors.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. There's a level of, kind of cost involved in what they do inherently, and he needed you to know that that was a price you will have to pay for standing up for people and being this savior character you want to be. It can't always be clean cut. It can't always be only the bad guys die. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
There will be innocence and things,
There will be some sacrifice to be made.
Yes, probably not yours, but there will be some.
No, of course, but for the greater good,
Exactly, that's it. It's the greater good.
Yeah.
So, now with Lycaeus freed, the people celebrated and renamed the moon. They renamed it to Deliverance. So the the moon of Lycaeus is now known as Deliverance from that day forward. And in time to come, you took control of the 19th Legion, the Raven Guard, and Deliverance became their homeworld. And the Black Tower that the Overseers had became your fortress monastery, the Ravenspire. For the record, this is what you look like in your proper power armor as a Primarch. You like wings and jetpacks.
I mean, I like that in real life too. But
Pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, this guy can just wing slap someone at 1,000 miles an hour to kill them. You don't have to fight people. What happened?
I'm thinking about... Okay, sorry, I'm going on a trail here, but I'm thinking about The Simpsons. If anybody's seen The Simpsons...
You can run, but you can't glide.
Yeah, that one as well. I was thinking about Space Police,
Sky Police.
Sky Police, but yeah, the Homer one is good as well. You can run, but you cannot glide.
There's so many applicable quotes.
Oh, there is, right?
Oh, God.
Oh, that's good. I'm back on track. Sorry for steering us off.
No, that's fine.
If any of our listeners are like Simpsons fans, right, they're gonna get it and they're gonna think it's funny.
Yeah.
If not, I do apologize for the people who don't see The Simpsons, but it's fine.
Those are old episodes. Everyone will have seen them at some point.
I mean, I think our key demographics are in that age gap at least. So,
Probably, yes.
Age range.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they probably know what we're talking about. But yes, continue, Ryan.
Well, this is the point where you kind of go on to lead your legion into the Great Crusade. So we are going to do our usual skip forward to the aftermath, right?
Yes.
But there's a little bit of like during the Horus Heresy history we need for you here, right? Because otherwise there's a bit of the actual aftermath that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to have to explain a little bit here for you.
Okay.
Right. So, you and your boys were one of the 3 legions that were in the drop site massacre on the Loyalist side, right? It was you, Vulcan, and Ferris. Ferris didn't make it out of there. Your legion barely did, right? But you survived, obviously.
Of course.
So in the drop site massacre, your legion was decimated, right? Barely any of you got out of there alive. So, to try and make up for this, you needed new sons. You needed more Marines, right? And you needed them fast. So, you essentially prayed for an answer, and the Emperor provided, right? He let you know about a secret cache of a genome, right? That was on Terra, and it is the common genome that all the Primarchs share before they are given a specific, form to make them who they are, right?
Yeah.
So, you go to Terra, into the old lab where you guys were built, you find what you needed, and you retrieve it. Then you head back to Deliverance, and you give it to the apothecaries, and you tell them, extract the genome for our kids, and let's get them built. They do just that, and you have 500 freshly built Raven Guard Marines ready to roll. Mm-hmm. Thing is, there was a bit of an issue. That your 500 new war-ready sons were created, but with horrible mutations. So it was everything from them being like big hulking over-muscled brutes that just made weird groaning and growling noises, to having horns, scales, tails, and wings.
Great.
See, you tried to cut corners, my man. You tried to cut corners, and this is what you get.
I regret my decisions in life.
Yeah. So this was the point when you discovered that your legion had been infiltrated by a bunch of Alpha Legion guys back during the drop site massacre. And they had contaminated the genome with demon blood, or a virus based off of demon blood.
Yeah.
The idea was it would destroy the Raven Guard genome, except it didn't. It just contaminated it and made the Marines that came out of it mutants. Thing is, though, you kind of needed the troops, so you readied up your 500 mutant kids along with the rest of your legion, and we're like, fuck it, I'm not making any more of them, because that went horribly wrong. Let's just go. Let's just, we've got as many as we've got. Let's just go do what we can do, okay?
Yeah.
So you just went and started fighting the traitors. 500 mutant legionnaires in tow. Turns out they were actually pretty good at fighting. Like, a Space Marine with 8 times the muscle they're supposed to have can basically pull the arms off of a dreadnought if it wants to.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like, it's disgusting, and it's clearly a monstrosity and is heresy in every possible form. But
there is an upside to it.
Like you can shoot it to a bloody pulp. It's probably still gonna keep moving. It's probably got 18 hearts. Like, it'll be fine.
That's good then.
Yeah, they worked. Like, don't get me wrong, they were definitely battle ready. They just, were barely human-esque. So yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're gonna do the skipping forward to the very endy bit. Because right at the end of it, you use your kids to go and save Lehman Russ and his Space Wolves, who were getting ransacked. Yes. And then the two of you headed back towards Deliverance to kind of, rearm and re-up kind of thing, right? Because both your legions were pretty messed up. Yours was basically, almost gone, because you've never managed to rebuild the legion through the entire heresy. His have just been straight out like a massive war, and you've both been fighting your whole way through this heresy. So you're pretty worn down, and your troops are a lot of them are dead. So you go back to Deliverance because it's relatively nearby, and it has a Forge World attached to it. So you can get your armor fixed, you can get new armor, you can get some of your Marines that have been getting trained and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
On the way, you meet Lionel Johnson, who was heading for Terra, as you know. Mm-hmm. He was adamant he should go and fight. He asked you guys to join him. Lehman Russ, as you know, no question about it, let's go. Right? Me and my kids are on our way. He even, on Kyavar, on the Forge World, they had made the new Mark 6 power armor for the Space Marines. So he now had Space Wolves who were freshly outfitted with new, better power armor, and he was excited to get them into battle. So he was dying to go with Lionel Johnson to go kick some traitor ass. You were a bit more wary because it seemed kind of like a pointless fight to run into at this stage, especially with your legion so badly damaged. Is there a point in committing them rather than staying and rebuilding them at a point where it seems like the war is already over? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you give them like an expeditionary force to take with them from your guys, and you stay behind. For the record, when Lionel Johnson, Lehman Russ, and your little squad all go off, they send your guys ahead of all the places that they arrive on the way, and they basically do like subterfuge hit and run tactics to destabilize all the enemy presences on the worlds they come across along the way. So that when the Lion rocks up, it's basically just cleanup duty rather than like full-on wars. So your guys were like essential in them being able to do their job cleanly.
Yeah.
And there's like 20 of them. Like, you sent like a really small expeditionary force, and they were essential in getting the job done.
Damn.
Yeah.
Deal with it, huh?
Oh yeah. It was great.
It's like...
Exactly.
Oh.
So, after the heresy ended, because like after the whole thing was over and the emperors interred on the golden throne and all that, you know, settle up on Deliverance and start rebuilding your legion properly. You see the truth in Gilliman's words when he explains the Codex Astartes, and you agree with him entirely and split your legion into chapters. But you had one other thing you had to deal with. You had 500 groaning mutant space marines in your basement. So
Yeah.
you gave them the Emperor's mercy and killed each and every one of them.
Well, with the Emperor's mercy, of course.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Shortly after which, you secluded yourself in your area of the Ravenspire, and you stayed there for a year. For exactly 1 year, you were in seclusion. And when you finally left, you marched down the tower to one of the carrier ships. And your last words, your last documented words to your sons were, "Nevermore." And then you got in the ship and fucked off towards the Eye of Terror.
Okay.
The idea being you were going to go hunt down the traitor Primarchs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the aftermath of the heresy for you. And that is the last documented part of the story of Corvus Corax.
Damn.
Thing is, there's one more bit.
Okay, yeah.
There's one more bit. Right? Now, don't know if I should be telling you this, because this comes from traitor mouths, right? This is possibly untrustworthy, right? This is hearsay from traitors. Emperors... No, not emperors' children. Word bearers. That's the traitors we're talking about here in particular, right? These are like the lowest of the low. So we don't know how trustworthy this is. But there is documentation... Well, no, there's stories told, not documentation, about a time when, within the Eye of Terror, the word bearers of Lorgar were on a small moon in the Eye of Terror, building a monument to the Dark Gods to win Lorgar's favour. They just want their dad to be proud of them, right? It's like, we'll build this big demon statue thing. They'll love it. Right? Dad'll be all over it. Right? It's like the Warhammer 40K equivalent of painting a picture and asking your dad to put it on the fridge, to be entirely honest with you. Now, as the days go on of them, you know, working on this moon to build this monument, they start finding dead bodies. They start finding dead word bearers. Right? And they don't know what's killed them. And it gets a bit weird. Like, they're not hearing anything, they're not seeing anything. They're just finding them dead. It's like something like a horror movie. And then they begin to see what's doing it. Some kind of shadowy warp beast is setting upon their troops and then disappearing into the darkness. Randomly.
Very stealthily, right?
Yes, but it does appear to be a giant shadowy warp monster. Now, they think it is just some kind of malicious warp entity that has managed to break its way through their barriers. So, they call on Lorgar to come and help them. So Lorgar opens a rift and comes to this moon. Now, upon seeing this beast, Lorgar explains to his sons, this is not a warp entity. It is, in fact, one of his brothers who they have just led directly to its target.
Yes.
It seems that in your time stalking the Eye of Terror, hunting for traitor Primarchs, you develop some new tricks, and it seems that either you are now able to transform into a shadowy warp monster, or you have just become a shadowy warp monster because of some kind of chaos corruption, or warp corruption from the Eye of Terror. Both would be equally likely, we don't know which. For the record, he then started setting upon Lorgar and his kids, until Lorgar eventually had to run away back through his stupid warp portal, and the kind of last thing said was that Corax warned Lorgar that he will find him again, because he already has his scent.
No.
So to this day, there is a big shadowy warp monster version of Corax. If you look here, this is someone's idea of what it looks like.
Bruh.
This thing is chasing Lorgar around the Eye of Terror.
I could never sleep if it... Oh, God.
Yeah!
No.
Lorgar spends half his time in, like, the top room of a big tower, like, poring over old books and stuff as well. So I like to think it's going to be, like, one big rainy night, and there's going to be, like, a shadow will fly past the window, and he'll be like, okay, it's just a normal bird. And then he'll go over to the window, and then that'll just appear and drag him out.
Sounds like a good movie scene.
It'd be good, right?
Yeah, it would. Like, it reminds me of Batman. I don't know why.
Kind of it. Yeah. And he's not even the Batman Primarch.
No.
Kurz is the Batman Primarch, for the record.
I know. Oh well, you know.
But that is all the information I can give you right now on the storyline of Conrad Kurz. No, not Conrad Kurz. Corvus Corax. Sorry, I was thinking about Conrad Kurz because of the Batman thing.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Now,
all right. Yeah.
Here we go. Corvus Corax is right here, 4th in B tier.
Yes.
Do you think he deserves that spot?
I'm not too sure. I don't know. I don't know why, but there's something about him that doesn't resonate well with me, if you know what I mean.
All right.
I don't know. Now, you would probably think otherwise, right?
I do. I thought he was going to be one that you'd like. I'm a big fan of his, like, urban warfare tactical kind of way of doing things. That it's like Spec Ops, basically. His guys are like the Spec Ops Marines, which I absolutely love. So if they insert with another Legion, say they went in with the Space Wolves will do like a full frontal assault and just, take up the enemy's time and attention. These guys will go in and sabotage all their equipment and everything like that. I just think that's really cool. It's like a specialization I like.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of cool, but
yeah.
Also those nukes as well.
There's that.
Which brings me up a bit, but I don't know. I think he might. I don't know if he should be in the. I might be harsh. I don't even think he should be in the B tier. I think maybe high C tier.
Oh, okay.
Because the thing is, I don't think he's like up there. I don't know why.
No, that's fine.
I'll say him top C tier.
Yeah.
First and C tier.
All right.
Yeah.
So you've got him above Mortarion, Alfarius, and Perturabo. That's fair.
Yes.
He is the lowest loyalist Primarch.
Yes.
Weird. To be fair, Ferrus Manus didn't really get much of an improvement either.
Though I like Ferrus. He's yeah.
Yeah, Ferrus is a cool guy. Yeah. Well, okay. There's how our list sits currently.
Yes, it's changed a bit since the beginning of the season.
It has.
Some surprises and I don't know. Let's see how it is in the end of the season, yeah?
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want me to tie it off here then?
Go for it.
Alrighty then. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Iterators of the Imperium podcast, season 3. Ooh, I can't believe that we're actually in season 3, man. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I will see you in the next one with Ryan, of course. Until then, take care and peace.
Bye.